want to make sure what time it is. My watch said 7 a.m., but it's 10 a.m. I guess I'm in the East Coast now. Are you guys doing good today? Yes. So, how many of you saw this presentation and this sounds kind of interesting a little bit? Anybody? All right, I hope so. I saw some of you are wearing red border name tags, right? You guys were guests today, is that correct? Well, can I tell a quick story? 11 years ago, and I remember like it was yesterday, because I believe everything happens for a reason. I don't know, Han, if you believe the same thing. But on April 19th of 2007, I had just moved to the United States from Mexico. I know I look like I'm from China, but I'm not. I'm from Mexico, and I came in 2007, and I came to, I was attending school. I was studying economics in a small school called De Anza College, a little community college. And I was studying, and I was a server at a restaurant. And I hated being a server in a restaurant. Anybody here knows a server, or you were a server before? Man, I hated being a server. I'm like, I did not come to the United States to be a server. I want to wear a suit to work. I don't want to smell like coffee cake when I get off work. Right, Auntie? So I showed up, and somebody invites me to a meeting. One of my friends I play soccer with, he invites me to a meeting, and I come to a meeting, and it was April 19th of 2007. I saw the exact same presentation that you saw. I went to an office that was so big, 20,000 square feet in San Jose, California. It was so big, it had street signs in the different hallways, because you can get lost. It was like a maze. And which we had Andy speak at that office as well. And I came to that office, and they're giving me a tour. And you know what's funny? I'm so young, so hopefully this doesn't sound bad. But I'm so young, they're giving tours. They're showing the picture, they're displaying all the people that make a six-figure income at the time, right? And the picture of one of those guys is a guy that I used to go to high school with. And his name was Alex, and he was a year older than me. And I remember he showed up to our prom. I mean, I feel like a baby saying this. He showed up to our prom in a brand new Corvette C06, because he was only 20 years old, making a six-figure income. And now that I look back, I was like, how immature is that, right? Buying a $100,000 car when you're 20 years old. Here we have one of the guys, one of the wealthiest men I know in my whole entire life, standing behind you, Mr. Andy Nguyen. Look at him. And he makes $5 million, almost $5 million a year, and he drives a 1997 Mercedes-Benz. So he picked me up this morning to come talk to you guys, and I'm like, oh my God, this is exciting. You know, I have the top guy in the company picking me up. I'm Mexican, so I like nice cars and fast stuff, and I'm like, let's see what he drives. Man, he drives a 1997 Mercedes-Benz, and I'm like, man, the dream is real. But let me tell you why I tell you that. Let me tell you why I tell you that, because when I showed up to this presentation, and they started talking about helping people, there was something inside of me that said, Mario, this might be it. I grew up in a family that we didn't really go without. My grandfather did okay, very, very well. Not to be humble, my grandfather did very well financially back in Acapulco, Mexico. Anybody knows where that is? Yes. And I hate saying Mexico because I feel like there's some Latinos that are going to hunt me after. Mexico, 1990. And my grandfather did very, very well financially, but my parents didn't. So I don't know if any of you kind of come from a family where your family does well, but your specific family doesn't do well. And my parents suffer a lot financially. That's why my dad moved to the United States when I was 6 years old. And I was raised by my grandfather. And my grandfather always traveled and took care of the family and had 7 children, provided an education for all 7, bought them a home, paid for their wedding. He was the man of the family. Anybody's ever heard of that term before? I feel like as generations pass by, that doesn't exist anymore. Now it's the women of the family, right? But back then he was the man of the family. And when I was 11, I asked him, Grandpa, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to be rich because I hate my parents fighting over money all the time. And I'm like, how can I do it? He goes, mijo, that's how we say son. Mijo, one day you will figure it out. And I was very lucky. And I'm like, well, how did you get lucky? He goes, look, you're too young to be thinking about money. You should be thinking about school. You should be thinking about having good grades. He goes, but I will tell you something that maybe one day will make sense to you. He said, in your life, you're going to get 1 or 2 knocks on your door. And it's going to be your ability to see them and seize them. That's going to make the difference between where you want to be in life and where you don't want to be in life. And I was like, so that doesn't answer my question. How am I successful? He goes, you'll understand one day. And I was 19 and I was so upset at myself. I was in the country for 2.5 years. I worked in a restaurant for the whole 2.5 years, I wanted something better. And I don't know if I'm speaking to anybody here this morning, but how many of you are in a position where like, you just want a little bit more out of life? I mean, let's start with this, because this is kind of cool. How many of you were not born in the United States? Raise your hand. If you were not born in the United States of America. Okay? How many of you were born in the U.S.? All right, you weird people. So only like 4 of you. Majority of us were not born in the United States. Now, for all of us that were born here, how many generations has your family been in this country? Let me tell you why I bring this up. For all of us that were not born here, question. When your family or you decided to move here, you look now at your life today and you go, man, this is exactly where I wanted to be at this point in my life. How many of us could say, man, I'm exactly where I wanted to be, I had it all measured, and I'm perfectly where I want to be? Is anybody in this room where like, I just want a little bit more, I just thought I would be a little bit further ahead, I just think there's another level for me and my family? Anybody feels like that? And you don't need to raise your hand, because I understand sometimes it's a weird thing to ask. And but I want you to think of this for a second. When I was invited, I didn't have a college degree at the time. I was working on my college degree. And the presentation that was shared here talked about helping people financially. My father did almost everything right when he came here. He had a good job, benefits, graduated college. And in 2008, anybody remembers 2008? I was already 1 year in the company, if you can do math. 2007, 2008, 1 year. My dad did not want to listen to me because I'm only 19. He goes, what do you know about financial services? You cannot be in a company 1 year and now you're a financial advisor. So, and I was very negative, not supportive. And the next year comes by and he loses his job. Anybody ever lost a job before? What happens when you lose your job? You lose all the benefits that your job brings, true or not true? What is one of the main benefits that everybody likes at their job? Their medical, their health benefits, correct. When you're diabetic and there's no programs for you back in the day, and you lose your job, you find yourself having to get your own plan. And your own plan back then was called Cobra. Anybody remembers Cobra Health Insurance? You know how much Cobra was for my father, who at the time was 53 and diabetic? $1,000 a month. And when you lost your job, an unemployment check is $1,800 a month. Your mortgage payment, I don't know if anybody knew what happened in the Bay Area to homes. Your mortgage payment was $3,000 when you bought it, and now it's $5,300 a month. And then your health benefits are now $1,000, and you have a car payment for like $500, and you have a wife that doesn't work, and you have children that you gotta support, and you have $1,800 a month coming in. How do you do it? How do you do it? He didn't know any better. The 401k he had, I believe we should have a reform to change the name. Because when you take it out, you don't take 401, you take 201. It's like 50% of what you see, right? So my dad's 401k was cut in half. He didn't know any better because he didn't have a financial advisor. He just had an HR manager that didn't know anything, that didn't know what they were doing either. And what happened to that? When he take out his money, he lost another 50% of his money. And within 6 months, trying to save the house, my dad was left with $0. So now what starts happening? You start cutting bills. Anybody's ever cut bills? You've been in a position where you have to cut your expenses? Well, one of the expenses he decided to cut was his health benefits. And a few years later, 2 years after that, of not taking his medicine, my father got diagnosed with kidney problems. Because when you don't take your medicine and you're diabetic, you have kidney problems. Today, my dad attends dialysis center 24 hours a week for 3 sessions of 8 hours each. And who do you think will hire you when you're, at this time now, he's 56, I'm sorry, like 59. Who do you think is gonna hire you when you're 59, 60 years old, and you have all these health problems, you're in and out of the hospital all the time, and you're old enough to be very stubborn, so you're not coachable to anywhere you work anymore, and you're more of a liability than you're an asset to any company you will work for. Who do you think is gonna hire them? What type of job can he get? But can I tell you one thing that I'm grateful for? Through this company, through the services and products that we provide. A lot of people say, Mario, you started very young and you were able to be successful at a young age. What happened? I really believe that anything that you develop a passion for, you tend to be very good at, right? I don't know if any of you here are passionate about anything. I know some people are very passionate about cooking, and you're a great cook. Some of us are passionate about sports. Anybody saw the basketball game last night, right? LeBron James won. He's a good player. You wanna know why? He's passionate about basketball. When my dad went through what he went through, I got very passionate about helping people financially. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you sat down with someone that showed you your future in the next 10 years if you continue to do the same thing you're doing today? And that's what this company got me excited about, that I can go out and help people like my father, because by the time he was 22, he got lucky. He found a 401m. It's a new retirement plan. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. Anybody, have you heard of the 401m? Have you heard of the 401m? No? Anybody's ever heard of the 401m? He's 401m Mario. It's 401 Mario. I was his retirement plan. And till today, I tell you, now since I was 22, it's been 8 years. 8 years that my father has been on my payroll, and I've been able to retire him. And I just want you to know one thing. Has the company been fantastic? Absolutely. I'm a 30-year-old Mexican. There's not a lot of Mexicans in our company. Is there any Mexicans here? I see some Latinos. You're Latino from somewhere. You might not be from Mexico, but according to my geology, you might be from El Salvador, Nicaragua. Where are you from?
Peru.
You're from Peru. Peruvian, very well. I want to go to Chichen Itza. Anybody here is like Latino, or is just 3 people here? All right? I see a lot of people that are from where? Africa?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Chile, Chileno. All right, very good. Where do we have people from?
Philippines.
Philippines. All right, my wife is Filipino.
Iran.
That's smart. All right. Good. Anyone else?
From Iran. Iran.
Vietnam?
China.
Iran.
Where? China. All right. Shit. I know. That's all I know. All right. Very good.
Iran.
India. All right. Very good.
Iran.
Iran. Okay. Very good. Can I tell you one thing? I came into the company and I look at the poster, and if you look at the posters, everyone Asian or white. Everyone. So when you come in and you see this, you're like, this is a company that is very good. But when you're Latino, you go, I don't know if this company is good for me. Because there's no one like me in the posters, right? Well, let me tell you one thing. We decided to change the posters.
Yep.
And one of the reasons why we decided to change the posters is because our company gives the same opportunity to everybody that comes into the company. Let me explain one thing just so I can end the presentation. I want to just give you guys some hope because I believe everything happens I believe I'm in Maryland for a reason. Am I in Maryland?
Yes.
Maryland and Virginia is confusing. Let me tell you, I'm in Maryland for a reason, and I hope you're here for a reason. If you got invited, I hope you understand that it's not just by luck, it's not by coincidence. Someone thought highly of you, Tessie, and said, you need to come check this out this morning. I want to ask you, in the vehicle that you're currently in, can you get to the destination you want to go to, Bing? I want you to analyze the vehicle that you're in, right? When I was a server, the vehicle that I was in, the fastest that I could ever drive it was maybe make a 6-figure income if I worked 7 days a week, double shifts every day. The vehicle my father was in was capped off at $150,000 in annual income. My dad was very talented, extremely smart, went everything right. But he was in what? The wrong vehicle. Even me, Andy is 100 times more smart than I am. But if I get on a car that was built after 1997, I can go faster than him, even if he's a better driver. Can we agree? Imagine if he gets in a Prius and I get in a Ferrari, which I heard he also has one. All right? But let's say you drive a Prius and I drive a Ferrari. You are a professional driver, I'm an amateur driver. Who has a better chance of winning the race long term if it's just a mile? As good as a driver as you are, if you're in a Prius, you're going to lose to the Ferrari. True or not true?
True.
Question, are you in the right vehicle right now? Yes. Let me ask you a question. Is the vehicle that you're currently in have the earning potential of maybe $400,000 a year in a starting position in our company? I'm an executive vice chairman with our firm, okay? The average person in our level makes almost $1,100,000 a year, $1.1 million a year. That's the average speed, you would say. Okay? Do we say this to brag? Absolutely not. We don't say this to brag. This just signifies the amount of families that we help. Let me tell you one thing. I bring the curve down, so you can imagine how much other people make. I only make close to $800,000 a year, so I make this curve down. You know what's exciting for me? Knowing that I'm in a vehicle that I'm not even at average speed, and I'm already ahead of 99.9% of the world. And if I catch full speed,